So I think I wanted to start with Emma and Najonia, because the last time I was talking to Benny in this setting, we were talking a little bit about some of the, I think, points of reference, kind of real world influences on the characterization of Dougie, and I was especially curious to hear from you two about sort of a similar line of questioning. That is like I think your character through the relationship between your characters, the show is maybe speaking most explicitly about some really important themes concerning like white liberal guilt, the role of or the art world, and kind of the role of the art market in relationship to various things that the show's attending to. And I was kind of hoping you two could talk a little bit about some of, I mean, if there are any like real world bases for the characterizations of Whitney and Kara, or even just kind of like general sociological trends that were sort of on your mind when you're formulating your approaches to the characters. And I think either of you could start here.
Najoni, you start, because no comment. You start, please.
I guess in terms of like the relationship, I feel like it is a common relationship with, someone that's your benefactor, and there's like that power dynamic, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a thing. There's always somebody that's, holding the cards, and yeah, I don't know. My approach to it, yeah.
That speech you gave was from your audition.
Yeah.
I think so just so for people have some context, we worked with Najonia a lot on the character, and changed a lot of the script. Once we found her and we're like, okay, like, this is the person who can do Kara. She brought so much to it that was different than what we expected, but so real and honest that we kind of adjusted the whole script to incorporate it. But we also had her just sort of like improvise in the audition at one point. We had all these scripts, but we have like very low confidence sometimes in our writing, and we're just like, well, let's just see how it goes. And we had the whole turkey thing.
I think we did an interview. It was like a fake
yes,
interview.
It was a
with
fake
you
like
as
news
the artist.
interview about her about her art. And she so we were just interviewing about, we had the turkey scene was in the script and all that. So we were just asking her about like, well, what is the meaning behind like the turkey? And pretty much that speech that you saw in the episode was what she just improvised in that moment. And it was incredible. And yeah. And so at some point when we were shooting, I think, or we were writing as we were shooting too, and we were wanting to tweak that scene, we called her up, and I was like,
we were like, is it
hey,
okay?
can we use that, what you said in the thing? And she was like, oh yeah, totally, go for it. Because it was just so kind of concise and poetic and sort of like summed up. And it felt like it came from you in the moment. I don't know where did that come from when you sort of...
That was actually my thoughts while I was reading the scene on script. I had no idea what the turkey meant, even like up into the moment where like we were improvising it. It just kind of like came out of me. And I honestly was curious about like, did you guys even know what the meaning of the slicing of the meat meant before I said that?
It was a dumber version of that. We didn't know how, we sort of didn't want the character to explain it. And I think originally, like, Kara wasn't supposed to actually talk about it because we didn't sort of want we like this idea that everyone around her was sort of talking about her art, but she actually wasn't. But the way you said it was just so real and like hit us in that moment.
I think Emma and Dave were also like, this needs to happen in it. You know, there has to be this confrontation, and it's amazing to see like the rehearsal and then see the final result, because it was so much more. Because when you were standing in front of Whitney, you know, it's really powerful. But
Yeah, I mean, it occurred to me in watching these episodes that that the character of Kara is almost like the closest thing the show has to like an audience surrogate at times, and so Jonia, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about this. You know, it's kind of like a complicated thing to have to perform discomfort, cynicism, and you know, like ambivalence, like all at the same time, and have to like shift registers from moment to moment. So yeah, I was wondering if you had any thoughts about kind of that dance, you know.
Yeah, I mean, my discomfort definitely. We've kind of talked a little bit about like moments of silence and how like Kara does really have like a lot of those moments where you can see that there's so much going on like inside, but not really actually like seeing her emotions. And yeah, I mean, it's
she's totally comfortable with that silence. That's the crazy.
yeah.
I also love how in episode 8 it feels sort of like Kara has like softened to Whitney for like a little moment. Like you sort of are like, don't make fun of her. Like you sort of are like defending her a little to your friend. She's nice or whatever, and then later it just becomes there's so much disgust. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah, so I want to turn to Benny and Nathan a little bit here, which is just as like pertaining to episode 8, just because I think it's like pretty revelatory for some things about like the friendship between Dougie and Asher, and it occurred to me in watching episode 8 that like I perhaps like overestimated how well friendship had been explored in like movies and TV and so on, and the idea of a genuinely like truthfully complicated friendship, and so I was kind of I was curious to hear from both of you sort of about like conversations you had and kind of arriving at what the exact shape of this friendship would be and sort of how it would gradually be revealed by the show, because I feel like we don't have that strong of a sense of sort of certain aspects of like your shared past or whatever up until this point, and sort of how you like how you guys talked about teasing that out.
Well, it's one thing that I thought was just like outside of that is kind of that adds to that is that Nathan and I are sometimes friends, you know, and in the show we had to kind of have that, but then add this layer to it. And Nathan was really kind of adamant about this idea of like there's a sadness to somebody not understanding a social situation and misunderstanding kind of somebody being mean, you know, kind of just out of defense. And that was the crux of their relationship, is like dealing with that spoken and unspoken. And I think that for a lot of it, you know, the show you're watching and you have a certain idea of who Dougie is and what he's doing. But when you actually see Dougie the bully, like, what does that do? You know, how does that feel? Because you've come to your own conclusions about somebody based on everything else. But then when you actually see their relationship, yes, it's in episode 8, but we like purposely held off until this moment so that it kind of all can kind of bubble up, because you've dealt with all of these kind of pressure cookers between the two of them. And I don't know, it was just that scene was it was oddly fun in a weird way, because it was really a long scene. We did that all as one run, right?
What scene are you talking about?
The interview.
Oh yeah.
The interview, and then that into like, I call it the Asher Dougie date, you know, where they go on, they have their kind of reconnection. And again, it's just this uncomfortableness. at like knowing that you've done something to somebody and that they don't actually know something, and you can't really get forgiveness because you don't want to be truthful about it. So there's a lot of complicated things that you have to deal with when you have friendships or you've said certain things, and I don't know. It was just fun. It was not fun is the wrong word because I don't think it's fun to watch, but I do actually. That's maybe the messed up thing. I don't know.
And also Asher not like being able to like admit to himself the truth about their relationship, because it sort of means that he had no friends if
Yes.
it's true. And so he sort of has to believe he was part of the fun, even though they were sort of, but also like kids, you know, so like, I don't know, do they know what they're really doing? Or so everyone's a little, has their own little delusions, I guess.
But you're pulling from past relationships and ideas, and you're just kind of trying to make it into what seems right for these people. And I don't know, the fact that they're working together and making this thing is so complicated because one person has so much more power in that certain situation. But
Yeah, I mean, a equally sort of pivotal relationship here is obviously Asher and Whitney, and I think given some of the things that are foregrounded in these two episodes, it makes me especially interested to hear from Nathan and Emma about sort of the conceptualization of kind of the arc that the relation or the depiction of the relationship in the show, and yeah, it occurs to me that there's like there's something about the relationship where it's like everything is sort of marked by some kind of like capitalist striving or what have you. So like so yeah, I was just kind of curious about how you guys envisioned the relationship playing out across the whole of the series, because I don't think it's like a very linear kind of depiction of like the dissolution of a relationship.
I don't want to hijack this, but I want to just backtrack for 1 second. Because when I said no comment, that was who this could be maybe based on, or like who was maybe inspiration. I want to just go back to the Kara relationship for 1 second. I think that the Kara-Whitney relationship is one of the most pivotal, vital elements to this show. I think that everything that's happening between the two of them, silently or spoken, is very definitive in terms of what this show is saying. And without being prescriptive about what I believe this all means, I think that what Najoni brought to Kara and the way that she played this character and also improvised these lines that eventually made it into the show are, to me, the most vital of the entire series, and the way that I understand Whitney and what she is reacting to and what she's melting down internally about. So I just wanted to say that really quickly because I said no comment, and it's extremely. I have many comments.
Extreme comment.
Internally, exactly. I have many comments. She's fucking incredible, and it's a very, very important dynamic. So to Asher, I mean, that's for, yeah, she's, yeah. Okay, so Asher, whatever, you know. No, I'm kidding. You're great. The Asher and Whitney, what was your idea about that relationship?
Where you acted in it, you don't. Yeah, I think like I mean, what's so amazing too is it's interesting like watching it with the audience and everything, and like Whitney is
very
so,
uncomfortable
like,
watching with an audience.
I think yeah, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was Whitney, like
We've never watched
it
it
just
with an
feels like
audience.
you really see on the big screen and everything, just like Whitney really feels like she's trying really hard to do kind of the right thing, and there's these like pressures, like what you were saying about just like capitalist structures, like there are these pressures around her that are on everyone that are so the norm that you don't really think about it unless it's like seen like in a show like this, really, because it's just she's sort of trying to do, and the discomfort, like when you see that cut of the show and like she's doing what she feels she's supposed to do
She truly believes
in the show, and it's so painful to watch.
She truly believes she's doing the right thing all the time, but she is a human mood ring
Yeah.
who's reacting to anyone's, look at her. So she, any look or any feeling, it's a weird combination because narcissists don't have empathy. But she weirdly has a combination of like feeling the room yet being deeply, deeply narcissistic.
You can be a partial
Well,
narcissist.
I think that's an
you don't have to
amazing
be full
point.
all or none.
Because she isn't,
But-
she doesn't actually, she sees it and understands it, but doesn't necessarily feel it. She knows what
Right.
she has to do.
Yeah, it's a very common affliction.
And I think she's
It
taking
is.
these thoughts.
No, but
and-
it's like a very modern affliction, I think, that you know what's the right thing to do. You know what you're supposed to be saying, posting, doing in a circumstance, and yet you don't necessarily feel it all the way in your bones because you want everybody to think, she was fascinating to play. For so many reasons, because there are so many people, and I understand it. Like I get it. Like you're like I'm supposed to do all these things correctly and then you just turn into and I'm not saying I'm Whitney. Maybe I am. Am I Whitney? Fuck.
Well, it was based on a lot of our conversations
Oh,
since
okay.
we met.
Yeah, that is interesting. But there is like there's something so modern about her.
It does feel like one of the most brutal things you can do to someone is say that you're responsible for telling your own story. It's a real burden when you're a person like Whitney. And how do you tell your own story and what's the way to do it? Because your mind is blocking out certain things. So it's not only the Asher and Whitney, but the Dougie element and this pressure for Whitney to have to tell her own story and be sincere about it. And she eventually comes to a place with Dougie where they both agree on what her story is.
Everybody's delusional.
And it feels honest. It feels like she's saying what she actually feels, which is weird that she's able to do that in the show.
And she almost becomes Dougie right at the moment where Dougie unbecomes himself. So it's like, it's just a little too late in a lot of ways. But it's just funny because,
she does not become Dougie.
But when you see her sitting with Kara in that moment, say it as a sentence. You see these instances where she's basically being the producer in that way. And I don't know, there's definitely, to what Nathan was saying, this idea that the show is going to be this ultimate representation of who she is. And that's the one thing Whitney is deathly afraid of actually doing, which is showing to the world what she actually believes in and what she thinks. So that's why the show is going in such a ping-pong way, because she doesn't know what she wants to say, and she's very nervous about that all the time. So,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
What? I mean, I guess I should have just said nothing there. And my mistake was saying a sound.
but I
So,
do
I'm sorry.
think. But
Look, Benny's a pro. He's been at all of these. This is my first one.
the thing that I do.
know Benny.
The thing that I find that what you're saying about this realistic form of friendship or this realistic kind of, I feel like a relationship, that's what was really kind of hard, was to show a marriage that's new and struggling, but with all of these kind of miscommunications that happen while it's going on. And then I think what I've been so excited to even get to this point of episode 9, because I think it's so funny to be in the room while each person is witnessing kind of a version of themselves on screen and having to deal with that,
Yeah, actually, well, that segues beautifully into what I wanted to ask about now, which is I think all of your answers and on some level kind of spoke to this, but the kind of the experience of watching the show in a cinema and the way that enlarges certain aspects, maybe it pushes other things to the background or whatever. I'd be curious to hear from all of you kind of about the experience of watching The Curse in a movie theater.
Dave, this seems like a great question for you. Dave has said for weeks now, they don't want to talk to me. They don't have any questions for me.
If I was just a fan of the show, I would not want this
Well,
guy
you are just a
be
fan. I thought
on
you were just a
stage
fan
right
that
now.
walked on stage.
We
Who are
thought you just walked on stage.
I shouldn't have.
I just want to say, for those who don't know, Dave McCary, he was a instrumental part of this show in helping craft the tone and being there every
Executive
day
producer
to
Dave McCary.
part of all these conversations about how we were executing it and kind of maintaining this like arc to the whole season that is like, as you're shooting 70 days, but every scene's like out of order and everything.
Yes, Dave was
it's
the
a hard
only
thing.
exclusively on-set executive producer. You guys were writing or directing, show running.
He was
He
banging.
was just there.
Yeah.
So everyone,
Full-blown
take out a
producer.
pen and write this name
Write this down.
and I want you to look up this man's IMDb.
This man is
And
brilliant.
I want you to watch his other work. The director of Brigsby Bear, for those that don't
Director
know.
of my favorite
An amazing
Shapes.
film. The
I love
director
Taurus. No, whatever.
the director of the sketch group Good Neighbor.
That's true.
Oh, a little less applause than Brigsby Bear. Interesting. Okay.
But Dave was like a compass. I called him super glue at the last time we were here. So please take it away, Dave.
Anyway, what was it like to watch it in the theater, Dave?
What were we
what was
talking
it like
about?
watching it in a theater?
That is very sweet that you guys said that. Because then they have some content. I do feel more confident now. What was it like? I'm really enjoying coming to the theater much. I was just talking to Najoni about this. This is one of my favorite things that we've been, as a filmmaker or being a part of behind the scenes of these things. Like, there's nothing like this, and this show always felt, as we were making it, like it was a 10-hour film, and I wish more people in the world got to experience it like this. And the energy coming off you, it's very depressing to watch by yourself, I would imagine. But then you feel some laughs, and it actually really shifts the way scenes play in an interesting way. And now seeing many iterations of these cuts and feeling very bleak about, and then coming here and everyone's like, yeah.
I will say, if you have been here before, we've done very long Q&As. I've warned everybody that we're going to do that again. So either way, we'll try as hard as possible to.
And everyone was
Yeah.
against it
Yes.
besides Benny.
There's,
So
there'll be a very
that's the
You
tone.
can just
you're-
get up and walk out.
whatever
no
tension
one
you're
will be
observing
offended.
up here is a result of that.
there will be a very strong emphasis on as hard as possible. Yeah. Anyway, let's open it up. If you have a question, raise your hand. I'll call on you. We'll bring you a microphone, and we'll start right here in the cardigan.
Hi, okay. So I have a question mostly for Nathan, actually. You are directing, and maybe for Benny too a little bit if you want to pipe in.
Sounds good.
You're directing a lot of these episodes, and you're also doing this like very intense acting that at least I don't think we've seen you do before in like any of your other projects. What is that like to do? Like when you're, watching the monitor and seeing yourself like get very intense. Or are you just like not thinking about that at all?
The really intense moments are definitely weird to look at because it's like I'm like, does that look like normal or does that look like a person or but yeah, I started like making stuff on YouTube like in 2005 when like YouTube started, and so I would edit my own stuff and sort of like make these shorts. So I like got used to that being like a part of my process where I'm directing myself and then I'm like watching it. So it's not, I'm sure it was weird for everyone else, me doing that because, but I'm, concerned about my acting too, more than the pros, up here, right? Am I right? Poor Things, La La Land, Oppenheimer.
Why are you saying
it's-
Oppenheimer? There's two P's.
Goodfellas. But anyways, no, I'm always a little insecure about that. But yeah, I think it's like it is. You like that's why this was like an extremely collaborative process with me and Benny, because there's a lot of scenes like we're not in together, so we're each looking out for each other with that, and like looking at the monitor, and everything you see on screen has been like heavily discussed with both of us, and we're always trying to like put up their stuff. That it's a true collaboration, so we want to make sure we're on the same page about everything that we're doing and checking in. So it would be harder to do if it was like Benny wasn't there or Dave wasn't there, or other people aren't there to like give us an opinion on that.
It was exciting for me to see you go and show all that, like, because you're that scene in episode 9 is like, it's insane, and it was like, I knew you were nervous to do that, but it was like, because you really couldn't, we had to kind of set it up like where you were just kind of going and like, you were going to say when you went, right?
But he only did it twice.
That's what I'm saying. Is at first we were going to just remember the first take
right?
we were just going to do it. He was like, "I'm not going to go all the way. I'm going to stop right before I go into the whole speech."
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We were gonna, because I worked on, because there's so many lines that don't logically connect. It's like one line doesn't make sense with another, so it was very hard to memorize. And like I worked on it all week, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go up until like the clapping part, and then we'll like do a new take before I do that. But I was like, because we started at the TV screen, I think, or like when we were watching, and I guess I just like was in it and I started doing it, and then I just did the whole thing. And then after
We tried to do it again,
and it was bad. And I was sort of like, because I like doing lots of takes if I can, but I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. So it was just after the second one, I think we bailed on it.
Yeah,
And that was it.
but there's definitely it was like there's like moments of kind of like true hurt that Asher shows that I'm always so excited to see it on the screen, because it's not like the stakes aren't, if you were to just like ask what happened, and it doesn't necessarily sound like that big of a deal, but to the characters in the screen, it's a big deal, everything that's happening, and as it is in kind of your everyday life, if you're outside and you get into an interaction with somebody, I've had the feeling where it's like if I get into like not necessarily a fight, or like somebody does something to you and you kind of think like, oh, like you kind of walk away getting really angry, and then you think, oh, I should have said this, or I should have said that, and you kind of want to go back to the moment and find the person, just tell it to them, but they're never there, and then you have to live with that. But if somebody asked you why you're so upset, and you're just like, oh, well, I was waiting online and somebody accidentally bumped into me while I was on the phone. That's it. And then you're like, oh, but why were you so angry? And then you have to go into all of the backstory of what it is, who you were on the phone with, all that stuff. So that's kind of where I guess the show is trying to take you, maybe.
What?
Does that?
It's to put you in the moment of all of these people,
Oh.
That answers the question.
Totally.
Does that answer your question?
All right.
And this is what happens every time. More questions pop up as we speak.
Let's go to the back of the room. Orange over here. Or I think it's orange. I can't tell. Coral. Yeah.
Coral.
Oral, nice.
Hi.
Hello.
So I have a question about the character of Dougie, kind of just about his motivations for doing something.
Okay.
And I hope this isn't something that just comes up in the finale, and if so, feel free to just no comment me. But so Dougie has a breathalyzer, and Dougie uses it, but he never uses it until he's already like on the highway. And I just was curious about that.
Well, I think
He's already in the middle of driving like
Yeah.
70 miles.
Exactly.
I think what it is that he doesn't understand where he's at right when he gets into the car. It's only after a few minutes, or like probably 20 minutes of driving, that he realizes where he is. And he's like, oh, okay, I should probably do something about that. And he tries to make the right decision, so.
Dougie's an alcoholic.
Yeah. And it's all, in that moment, it's a delayed reaction to how he.
Acceptance of being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
When do you use yours? I mean, I think if you have one of those things like that, I mean, anything's game, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you have one on you,
Yeah, no, that's true. And
you're
it's
probably doing it all the time.
but it was something we thought about. You know, we could have gone for the keychain version. We went with a very good breathalyzer. You know, it's something that he takes seriously. And it's just there's I guess it's interesting because there's things like that he's doing to kind of, and he says it to Asher, I could see you were feeling uncomfortable. So that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, he keeps doing it to reassure the other
Yeah.
person he's saying.
So
but-
it's almost like if
Yeah.
you think, oh, really, I'm drunk, let me prove it to you. And then you're like, oh yeah, you're fucking wasted, you know? And it's almost like it's only because the number tells him that he has to stop, so.
I think also like 0.08 on those things is actually very high. You can drink a lot, and so
Yeah, that was
he's
the other-
probably always drunk and trying to prove to people he's not, but you can be drunk and still blow under.
Because it's actually,
think it's
when you
like-
look at the actual law, that level is extremely high.
I think it is like 5 or
Yeah.
6 beers to.
And it's like, so we did the math and all this stuff of like how much you could actually get away with, you know, and then there's discretion at the hands of the person who pulls you over. But there was a lot, it's interesting, it's such a simple question, but there is a lot of weird information that went into choosing that
I
specific
mean, we could talk
one.
for hours about this.
But let's not.
What's yeah. Oh.
Right there in the black T-shirt.
How are you
No,
deciding on people? I'm curious because you're sort of like,
It's my gut.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm not going to load this question. Is there a strategy to how much penis appears in each episode? Because it seems really carefully placed, but I mean, I got to know.
Yes, it's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. This is how I'm deciding who to call on.
The answer is yes. Next question.
All right, going back to the back over here in the
I
gray
see this
T-shirt.
person holding right dead center has been holding their hand up for a long time. Dan.
All right, well, call on her.
No, but he has a thing where he's like, he sees that, but he's like, I'm gonna not. It's like the New York
Hi.
Film Fest way. Oh.
So I just recently listened to an interview with the great Rick Rubin.
Wow.
I know.
Where
It's
is this
available
person?
to everyone.
Congratulations.
Straight ahead.
Thank you.
You listened to an interview with who?
Rick Rubin.
Great
Oh,
Rick Rubin.
okay.
And he was saying that every piece of art is at first a diary entry. So my question for the creators is, what did you pull from your own lives that inspired the curse?
Wow.
Rick Rubin's wrong.
Period. Next question.
No, 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 no.
He's not letting us off the hook on that one.
Tell Rick Rubin, I just went to a Q&A with Nathan Fielder, and he said that nothing is a diary entry.
I can try and answer. I think that actually is very truthful, and I don't necessarily. I was very open to kind of talking about myself, you know, and certain feelings, and just like the way that you go through and how susceptible I am to certain marketing and all that stuff, and that you have to be kind of truthful about that stuff in order to, I think specifically for this to work, if it does, you know. So I think that it is definitely, you can't be afraid to look at yourself and talk about that. And it was definitely like conversations, you know, just about how you move through kind of the world and try and go through things. But it's not, I don't know if it's as beneficial as maybe it is, you know, as a diary entry, because you're not really, you're doing it against what you're like being told in a lot of ways, but I don't know.
I mean, also just when you feel like those natural like tensions in your life, and like you're like, why do I feel that way? You want to. It's like interesting to kind of explore those things. I think in general and in stuff.
So what happened to you, Nathan? What happened to you that might have inspired this show, Nathan?
Uh,
Do you guys already know this?
I don't
this
know.
story
It's
about the birth of the show with the curse. Never mind then.
No, there's
don't?
I mean, there's a lot. Yes, Rick Rubin is. I'm sure he's whatever. I don't know.
Stop talking about Rick Rubin.
It's like just feels like such a normal statement. I don't want to, but yeah, things come from life, and yeah, I think. Well, Emma wants me to tell the story of when that woman said the curse thing to me, but I'm like, I've told it a lot, but just in short, the genesis of the show was someone did say to me, I was in Westwood going to get a cell phone when I first moved to America, and a woman asked me for money, and I didn't have any, and she said, "I curse you." And then I went to the store to get the phone, but the entire time I couldn't get that out of my head, and it was bugging me, even though I don't believe in this stuff. And so after I went to the ATM and I took out $20 and I gave it to her and I said, "Is the curse gone?" And she smiled and said yes. So that me telling Benny about that story and how it was what that did to my mind, that's what we started talking about, just how words and the things you can project onto other people, and it was just a good basis for a show, because narratively too, in shows like this, lines and words mean things, and so to have that experience where you're not sure at any point what means what, and I think the characters feel that way a lot of the time too, seemed like an interesting jumping off point.
A few years ago, did you guys ever, sorry, it makes sense to what you're saying, but did you ever hear that episode of This American Life where they were talking about this man on the subway that was walking around to people and he wasn't saying anything, but he was walking down the line and he would either give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Did you guys hear, did anybody hear this episode?
It's amazing, yes.
And it was a bunch of people were well, I don't, nobody knew who this guy was, and he was just silently walking around. He would walk one by one, and he would just go and people were haunted by it. They were what does it mean? And is it, and it reminded me so much. I remember hearing that episode and then you talking about this. It's such a weird idea that someone can just say something to you or do something to you that you don't necessarily believe in, but it will hang over you forever.
I mean, just the experience of leaving a conversation and feeling did I say something stupid or that didn't go well? I feel that's common.
Nope.
Maybe.
Right, guys?
Yeah. Thumbs up. Or
none of us have ever been through that, Nathan.
did you ever give a half?
But anyways, I think that's this, a lot of in this show is the characters are really sort of concerned about how they leave these conversations with people.
And it's also, I guess, yeah, it's normally you may see a conversation very quickly, but we try to show the whole conversation so you can kind of see how people react when that feeling is hitting them. Where it's oh, should I have said that? Should I have not said that? I don't know.
But in short, yes, we all love Rick Rubin, and we're all big fans, we'll check out that podcast for sure.
All right, Nathan, who do you want to hear
No,
from?
I trust you.
No, it's okay.
Choose someone, and then we'll give you.
See,
All right, just because it's the first person I saw, the guy over here in the blue.
He's explaining now. I'm so sorry. See what that does to someone.
Yeah.
Now he's being watched.
The magic of language.
Oh my God.
I had a question about the casting. I was pretty surprised a few episodes ago to see Dean Cain pop up. How did that come about, and what was it like to work with him?
We just try to include as many of our friends in the show as we can. So it's basically Emma, Dean, we'll just call.
It was just, it made sense. I'd been a fan of Ripley's Believe It or Not, Lois and Clark. This is all true, and it was just there was something about him that seemed to make sense, for that role, and we reached out, we had a conversation with him, and then he was in the show. you
Yeah,
know?
he was great.
And
he was
yeah.
really good to work with and really pro on set.
Yeah.
Like fully just
like
yeah.
even like they're like little things like when he goes to shake Whitney's hand and she doesn't want to shake it, and he's like, I'm all right. There's like a lot of, it was an interesting thing to kind of work with and play
Yeah.
with yeah, he was great. You know, he had a good time, and yeah, I don't know. And the casting is just really who's right for that part, and every part we really poured a lot over. You know, there was a couple of times where we would get somebody, we would see their tape, and then we would have a conversation with them and do some kind of an improv with them.
Yeah.
And one time we didn't do that, and it was like, oh. And we all, whenever that happened, we kind of always kind of caught ourselves. Like, we needed to do that for almost all of the parts where somebody spoke, because it was, everything kind of hinged on all these different moments. Even if somebody came in for a brief second, if they read false, it hurt the whole thing, you know? But
good question.
Thank you.
No, it's to the person who asked. But,
Oh, okay.
No. So
right here.
Over here in the tie. Well, I was going to go to the tie because he's
Okay,
wearing
okay.
a tie.
Oh, this has become. I'm sorry I brought it up.
I wanted to kind of ask about improving in the cinematography style that you use, which kind of has the camera so far away. Does that kind of allow for more improvisational and kind of exploring those scenes as it's going on?
And just to be clear in general with that, like, there's not a lot of improv in the show. Like, we really, if anything, we would sort of explore moments when we met someone outside of it and then incorporate it into the script if we thought. But it had to be sort of like regimented because the lines and where the scenes went had such a structure to it over many minutes.
And it's actually the opposite. What you'd think that being far away would allow more freedom, but it doesn't, because you're literally shooting from so far away through such a small window, literally and figuratively, that if you miss your blocking or you miss this thing, you've missed the entire scene, and then you have to shoot it all over again because everything is connected.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it is like it's contradictory to what you'd think, but this style actually made us have to be really, really specific. But of course, you use improv to kind of take the script and mess it up, you know, to make it feel more natural, because the actual words don't really matter as much as the kind of sentiment behind them. So if I were to say a word like, I'm trying to think of a big word. What's a good big word? Akimbo. Arms akimbo. That's a small big word. Akimbo. You know what that means?
What does that mean?
It means arms at your sides. But I don't necessarily feel comfortable saying the words, oh yeah, he had his arms akimbo. Like if that was
That was good though.
But if I had
believe that.
But if
What
I had
is
that in the
going
script,
on?
oh yeah, they were look, she's standing there, her arms akimbo, you know? That doesn't sound right, so I would say, can I say arms at the side or on her hips? That sounds better. Okay, great. It means the same thing, but it's not technically the same word.
That's only 6 letters. It's not
But
that
it's
big.
but it's a big word. But it's a big word in the sense that it's a word you don't know, and it kind of sounds a little pretentious to say.
Yeah, I was
But-
just thinking like esophagus or something.
Okay.
Like which word?
Esophagus.
Esophagus?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
part
but
of the
that's
body, though. That's
normal.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. It's just bigger.
Well, let's think
I
of
have
another
a
big
hiatal
one.
hernia, and your esophagus is
What's
really
the
a big
what's the
part of
what's the
that.
word for when you mix up scents and
Okay,
words?
let's
If
just-
what's it?
Next question.
I have
What?
Were you? What is it? Synesthesia. There you go.
I have a
Next question.
recommendation. I have
Yeah.
a recommendation for the rest of the Q&A.
Yeah.
Hit us.
This is very Dave.
Well, no, I mean, I'm seeing like 40 hands, and I'm very curious, but I feel like we should actively try to do a rapid fire, like the most succinct.
Lightning round.
Oh wow.
Lightning round,
This
but, like,
is
give
this
us
is a nice new thing.
give a powerful sentence, like give a meaningful answer, but like let's not go on the tangents.
All right.
But we're answering the
Wow.
question, Dave.
So
All right,
this
now-
is how it happens. This is how the magic is made.
You got me carried.
Rapid.
All right. Now that everyone's been
But
reined
now
in.
all of the hands went up.
All right. Boom.
Lightning round.
Right in front of you. Yeah.
Why was the choice made for like the long lenses, and how early in pre was that decided?
From the beginning, and it was inspired by old 60s and 70s candid camera.
Nice.
Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes, she's had her
Yeah,
hand
you
up
had
for
your
a
hand
long
up.
time.
Yeah. Oh, you need a
No, wait.
mic.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's the thing
That was.
with the lightning round, the mic. Thing.
There we go.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hi. My sister and I have been Nathan fans for a long time, 9.5 years. And I would love if you could talk a little bit
Wait,
about...
9.5?
What?
You said?
Yeah, years.
9.5 years.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would love if you could talk about the world building, because I've seen a lot of Easter eggs that I recognize.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not going to go on tangent, though. So.
You can tangent.
yeah.
We can't tangent.
That's the thing. You can.
Oh, the
tangent.
McCary
Okay.
rule is just we can't.
I'll say a couple. One is like the laughing comedy thing reminded me of like a ha-ha thing that happened in Nathan on Your Side, as well as
these are deep cuts.
like the episode 7 with the distorted face in the mirror. There was like a also distorted thing on Nathan on Your Side. And then in the Simon Says episode of Nathan for You, he talks about the actor that plays Abshir. And then there he is, you know.
Okay, wow. Okay, I see.
I didn't even know what Nathan on Your Side was. He had to quietly go, that was from Canada.
Oh, yeah, Canada. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Vancouver.
Yeah. Some things that you might see as Easter eggs might be more about my limited range in how my brain works. But, you know, comedy is like, you know, I think a lot about comedy, and there's various like forms of comedy, and people trying to do comedy unsuccessfully is often kind of like it's an interesting character trait when someone wants to be funny but they don't have the natural tendency. But generally, I just like to be akimbo about it.
Great lightning round.
Wait.
No, anyone. First thought.
No, but isn't there someone in particular?
She handed the microphone.
All right.
Yes.
Wait, hold on. We'll bring you a microphone.
See, the thing this is what I don't know how you deal with this. I'm just going to say, speak to my inner. I know you said no tangent, but when you have when you have to describe who gets the microphone, that's a very complicated position to be in.
It's fraught. Yeah.
It's hard to be like,
complicated.
what do you choose as the description for the person to hand the microphone?
Thank you for seeing me.
Yes,
and
it's
hearing
hard.
me. Yeah.
I've been told this is a stupid question, so please prove this person wrong.
Uh-oh. Where is the person?
Do you think...
Where is the person that said it was stupid? Okay. All right.
I love him very much. Do you think that your characters are bad people?
Ooh, nice.
Not a stupid question at all.
Yeah,
that's not a stupid question.
That's
a very complex
But it's hard,
question.
you know, that's like, you know, you get into the meaning of life when you start talking about that stuff.
Exactly.
Like,
Can I, this would be interesting though. Can we, show of hands if you guys think these characters are bad people? Whoa!
Well, here's a question for you.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay,
what
let's
do
go
you
Whitney.
think?
Whitney, hands. Asher. Dougie.
Less. Interesting. Here's a question for you. What do you think is a quality that makes someone a bad person?
Wait, Kara.
I saw some hands.
2.
Whoa.
Nice. Okay, what's a quality that makes someone a bad person in your eyes?
Okay, that's a question that I wasn't ready to answer. I think a bad person is probably someone who really only thinks about themselves and is using like the world around them to their advantage and is taking advantage of other people less fortunate, probably. Taking advantage of people less fortunate in order to build themselves up.
Now, do you see Whitney as someone who only thinks about herself?
Yes.
So what do you take it when she does these other things for people that no one's seeing?
Well, yeah,
What's that?
Well, that's why I'm asking, because characters are three-dimensional people, right? And you guys are, your character, I'm going to assume that you build from yourselves with these characters and that you guys are not bad people, which is sort of why I'm asking the question, to get a sense of like how you feel about the actions of your characters and like where you pull from.
So I've got a rapid fire answer. Okay? Good and bad is just two things, you know? I feel like there is a range more than binary about how people are and who they are.
That's great.
It's a question for Nathan. All right, so I look at the Nathan for you, the rehearsal, and now this, some more of your recent work, as kind of like a sliding scale of reality. So like Nathan for you is probably the most reality show. The rehearsal somewhere in the middle, and this is the most like I guess scripted, but it feels it feels super real. And I guess where do you see this in the context of your work? And was it flexing the same muscles doing this, or did it feel like a total stretch out of your comfort zone?
It's like the goal in everything is just to like, I think Benny and I share this like feeling when we were trying to make something. We just want the viewers, people watching at home. There's so many things I watch where I just sort of feel nothing, and I like that sometimes. But we like it if the viewer can like feel something when they're watching something and like engage with it. And it comes in different forms, and there's not a strategy in terms of like, oh, this is this. It's just sort of like this project just made sense in the moment, and we were excited to do it. So we're trying things, and look, things are what they are, and the world's a beautiful place.
It's my mom right there, everybody.
Benny's mom.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I just want to say, with whatever like I make, and I know these guys feel the same way, like with everything, it's really hard to make something, and we're trying our best to like give you something new and entertaining. So it really means a lot that you're like engaging with the show and like coming out to these screenings, and it's just so great.
Truly, this is so special.
We love it, and we thank you for supporting it, and it's awesome. It's really cool. So thanks so much.
Thank you guys.